You'll notice I got my gas mask on because they keep lighting California on fire. They don't really have a solution. They keep leaving the power lines out. Sorry, it's hurting my ears a little bit. I can't hear, but we'll take it off. But for the speech, but I'm trying to keep the clean air out here. Everybody out here is just running in circles, and they make these tweets about the president. They say, Donald Trump is ruining my life. But I don't notice the fires burning everywhere, and the trash and the tents and the homelessness, and the fact that California, according to many reports, has the worst poverty in the country. And, San Francisco went from the cleanest city in the United States to the most disgusting city in the United States in 10 years. And they literally spent a couple $100,000. They got caught paying a PR firm to say that their city's clean when it's not. So ignore that. Let's blame Trump. But I put the gas mask on. I say, listen, y'all. I walk around the streets like this. People are like, why do you have that on? I'm like, well, the air is extremely unhealthy, and you don't even realize. But prayers for Anam Slung. We're out. It's God's work out here. Might have to evacuate soon. But all terrible air quality aside that nobody realizes that continuously happens because the government has no idea what they're doing. They don't manage the forests right. They don't manage their power company right. And also they are in some ways incentivized to have fires because then they get federal funding. Anyway, story I want to talk about today is free speech in America. We're going to talk about Washington Post's headline. Their headline today was something along the lines of whatever this title is. It says, does America need hate speech laws? So now they're openly just admitting and, being like, let's just take away the First Amendment. We're going to talk about that a little bit. We're going to talk about, obviously, all of the organizations that are doing it, the ADL, the SPLC, the ACLU, the LGBTQ, the, STLP, WXYZs, all of these alphabet organizations that are pretending to be some sort of activist group. We're standing up for women, children. But what they're doing is lobbying behind closed doors and openly to Google, to Facebook, all of these tech companies to remove your free speech completely. And then we're going to talk about what a lot of people don't want to talk about, which is the right wing, the mainstream right wing who go around college campuses and they tell everybody, we're fighting the culture war. We're standing up against political correctness and free speech. But what they're actually doing is selling out your free speech as well. And I don't say this for any other reason besides I like free speech. And I've heard a quote, and then we're going to start it up. Thank you guys for being here. The quote is, conservatism, at least nowadays, is like progressivism with a speed limit. It's like even when you win, you still lose. When they win, you lose free speech quickly. When conservatives win, you lose free speech slowly. And that's kind of what we see. So I'm going to talk about that. I'm going to just try to pin my stuff to the top. Actually, I probably won't even pin it to the top. I'll just put it. Someone says free speech, ha, ha, ha. Yeah, I know. It's tough out here. So we'll start with what's going on with the Washington Post. And we're going to talk about it in a different way. They put out a headline today, and they've been blasting out these headlines where they're railing against free speech. They really don't want this country to have free speech. And it's funny, not really funny, but earlier this week, they basically did a PR puff piece on the leader of ISIS, and they got a lot of backlash, and they took it back. And within 2 days, they're just railing against free speech, saying we need hate speech laws. Some people think this is random. They just think the mainstream media is bad. They hate Trump. It's all liberals. It's even probably darker than that. I'll give you an example. Jeff Bezos owns the Washington Post. Donald Trump and Jeff Bezos don't like each other. But also Jeff Bezos won a cloud contract with the CIA. I don't know exactly how much, a couple $100 million. He built some sort of cloud storage thing for the CIA. Donald Trump in Syria, he overturned $1 billion or $2 billion. All this stuff I'm saying is like mainstream knowledge. I'm not a whistleblower or anything. You could Google everything I'm saying and it'll come up probably in the Washington Post. They'll tell you themselves. Donald Trump cut $1 billion worth of funding that the CIA was doing some sort of covert operation in Syria to fund rebels to overthrow the leader of Syria. Hillary Clinton is on camera admitting that her idea of fighting Russia, or maybe it was Reagan's or whoever in the 80s, but she was admitting what the United States was doing, was funding Wahhabis, radical Islamicists to, fund their proxy war, fight their proxy war for them in the Middle East. So when the Washington Post, like I was saying the other day in a longer video, says, oh my God, al-Baghdadi is this austere scholar, but President Trump's bad. It's not just that they're liberal. It's not just that they hate the president. It's not just that they're deranged. It's that they represent a whole different agenda. They wanted Trump to do the $1 billion, rebel program that funded those people. So when Trump did it, in a weird way, it's like they're their PR team. It's like those are their guys. That's their people. It's not like a random thing that they hate Trump. Like, they know exactly what they're doing. Probably not the little loser writers who write these little articles, but, it's Jeff Bezos, the cloud contract, his agenda, liberal agenda, but also there's a military-industrial complex agenda probably wrapped into that, and their friends and their donors. So there's a reason that they're doing this. Same with the free speech thing. The Washington Post are saying, we don't want free speech. Of course you don't. No, country that wants to take total power wants free speech. China doesn't really allow their people to have free speech. A lot of Islamic countries don't allow their people to have free speech. Back in the day, Germany and Russia were a lot worse on free speech. A lot of people were. United States, we're a special country. I don't know if Washington Post realizes this, but I was thinking earlier, the Founding Fathers were so cool. Imagine your boss, and this is not, I want to reach out to people, because when I was younger, I was like, the Founding Fathers weren't cool, America's not that cool, I hate myself, this is such a bad place. I went through that phase of like thinking this stuff wasn't cool. I didn't care about the Constitution. I thought it was all just like, oh, conservatives and Republicans, they're such lames and bad people. I had those 5 feelings, but if you really look at the Constitution, they gave people the freedom of speech. They said, you could say whatever you want about us. You could pretty much say whatever you want. And then they gave people the first 2 amendments. The Second Amendment, the right to bear arms. Imagine if your boss at work said, here's a gun. You could kill me at any time that you would like if I do a bad job. No boss on the planet would do that, because bosses are not that great and people would probably want to rebel against them. That's what the Founding Fathers did. They said you could say whatever you want about me and you could have a gun to kill me when you want to, and no one wanted to because they were so cool. That's what makes America great. They know that government is powerful. They know that government is corrupt. They know that government's got out of hand, so they gave people 2 things. The freedom of speech and the right to bear arms to rebel against a tyrannical government or protect yourself or do really whatever you want. That's under the laws, other laws of the Constitution. So I said, what's around your neck? It's a smoked thing. It's for the terrible air out in California. So freedom of speech and the Second Amendment, you would think that these organizations, it gets even darker than what I'm talking about, you would think these organizations know that. This is a beautiful place. We don't like Trump. We don't like conservatives. We don't like taxes. We want welfare programs. We love illegals. But we're going to, protect the first 2 amendments, or at least have an intelligent discussion about it. But what do? They call NRA members, law-abiding citizens, terrorists, and then they PR team for a literal terrorist. He's an austere scholar. You're a terrorist for owning a gun. The reason the Founding Fathers wanted people to have guns was, we're so good that you can have this and you won't even want to rebel against us. Anyway, for those just joining, I kind of just went into Washington Post, what they're about and why they're so salty. But of course the Washington Post doesn't want people to have free speech. And a lot of these organizations, I want to say this, because this is controversial on the right as well, you have to really look into who they are. For instance, the ADL is one of the biggest perpetrators of free speech smearing. They go to, I'm sure, Washington Post, they go to Google, they go to Facebook, they go to Republicans, they go to conservatives, and the ADL tells them, you need to rig your algorithm against racism, and they admit openly, you could find Greenblatt, or whatever his name is, the leader of the ADL, openly admitting he got Google to change their algorithm. This is not my opinion. This is, you could look it up and find it if you look hard enough. Most people don't know. I was talking to conservatives last night, and I said, did you know that Anti-Defamation League is a Jewish organization? It's founded by B'nai B'rith, which is one of the oldest international, not American, international Jewish organizations in the world. And they started this organization in the 1900s, and it's blown into something way bigger than that. And they're the ones that are censoring conservatives. They're the ones that are calling everyone white supremacists. They're the ones that think talking about the first 2 amendments is a white supremacy talking point or a hate speech talking point, and they're a Jewish organization. Why do I say that? Why does Anomaly say that? Is it because I hate Jewish people? Absolutely not. Of course not. They even rail against Jewish conservatives all the time. It's because in order to figure out why something's happening, you got to figure out who these people are. If it was, and this is what I was telling conservatives last night, I was like, if it was a Muslim organization, you'd be freaking out. If it was a Christian organization, we'd all be freaking out and we'd be like, this isn't Christian. This is not okay. So it's crazy to me. They're like, I never even knew that it was a Jewish organization. Well, of course you don't. We're going to get into that later, because the Ben Shapiros, the Charlie Kirks, and the PragerU, they're not really pro-free speech. I know a lot of people don't like when I say this, but I'm a real free speech absolutist. They're not really pro-free speech. And there's a reason that you don't know who the ADL is and why they're doing what they're doing and who they're targeting. We're going to move over to the right wing. Now, there's other groups too. There's other elements of it. There's, the SPLC. There's God knows who. What? Pretty much all liberals now. Before I move to the right wing, I just want to say, I got to turn my other light on. Sorry. I just want to say, I understand that the left wing is a bigger threat to free speech. The Washington Post, the New York Times, those fake establishment, neoliberal, whatever you want to call them. But also, I think the progressive left, they don't really respect free speech either. And I think that they will shut you up in a second. And if a Democrat either wins, I'm not trying to fearmonger, I think they'll try to label everybody what they label the far, far right. They're going to say you're all far right. They want it all. They don't want you to critique them. They don't want to be talked. They don't want you to have the Second Amendment. The left wing is by far worse on that. But when it comes to the left wing, there's different elements of it. There's different religious organizations or ethnic organizations. There's a lot going on. So, you could take a look into that. And by no way am I saying the left the left is really not pro-free speech at all anymore. There's very few progressives that still stand up for it. It's going to be a nightmare. Let's move on to the right. This stuff I talk about because no one seems to understand this, and a lot of people are starting to figure it out. And I don't say it for any other reason than I don't want conservatism to be progressivism with a speed limit where even when Donald Trump wins or even when we vote in, Republicans, we're still losing our free speech. We're still losing the Second Amendment. We're still getting taxed ridiculously. The deficit's still up. It's like that's what happens when Republicans win. So I want to talk about it. Recently, at Politicon, which is an event I didn't even go to this year, Michael Knowles took a picture with a guy named Nick Fuentes. If you guys don't know who Nick Fuentes is, you could look him up, check him out. I suggest there's a really good interview that my friend Elijah Schaefer did with Blaze TV. He interviewed and questioned and debated Nick Fuentes. It was great because Elijah, got to give him a lot of props. He wasn't afraid to have a debate. He said, I don't agree with this guy. I don't like this guy, but I want to have a conversation. Much respect to Elijah, because most conservatives are not like that, including the people, Elijah's surrounded by. They don't want this guy anywhere. So the kid, Nick Fuentes, took a picture with Michael Knowles, and Michael Knowles retweeted it, and he said, I disavow, I condemn, I'm sorry for taking this picture, I didn't know who this was. So now this is conservatives saying that you're not even allowed to take a picture with somebody, guilty by association. If I take a picture with Donna Brazile, am I responsible for what she did? If I took a picture with Barack Obama, Donald Trump, Nick Fuentes, a progressive, today I'm going to go on someone's podcast, he's a progressive, more socialist-leaning person. I'm not responsible for his views just because I want to have a conversation with him. That's not what I'm about. It gets even darker than this, guys, because some people are saying, well, that's not legislative. It actually is, and it goes further. But I always make this point, I'm going to say it for the sake of not being taken out of context. Daryl Davis was a black jazz musician who got hundreds of KKK members to quit. He's the most successful person that I've ever seen to get KKK members to quit. He did it by talking to them. He did it by connecting with them. He did it by showing them so much love and intelligence that they realized that they didn't actually hate him. That's my style. I know that I'm going to get condemned one day. I know that I'm going to get blacklisted. I know that I'm going to get called alt-right or far left or whatever the trend of the day, anti-Semitic, Islamophobic, racist, sexist, xenophobic, Nazi, communist, whatever the word of the, I know they're going to call me that. I'm almost positive, and I've already heard that I'm getting blacklisted already by mainstream conservatives because I called Michael Knowles a pussy or suggested he's a pussy for condemning a photograph. And I don't have a problem with Michael Knowles. I think he's a funny, cool guy. But what are we doing on the conservative side if you're condemning a picture? It got so bad and this is all, this is all talk. I'm not trying to really get into because it's not my organization. I don't care. It's not really up to me. But Ashley St. Clair is a Jewish woman, happens to be Jewish, who was working directly or indirectly with Turning Point University. She attended a debate. It was a debate between Jacob Wohl, a Jewish Zionist, and Nick Fuentes, a further right anti-Zionist. That's what it's all about, folks. You want to have debates. You want to have conversations. That it doesn't have to be that debate, but there's nothing wrong with a debate or a conversation. She attended that debate, and the word on the street is that Turning Point USA basically kicked her out for taking a photograph with Nick Fuentes. So now what they're saying is you can't even take a picture with him. You can't debate him. You can't attend. Someone said, why call him a pussy? I don't know. I just felt like it. I'm sorry. Lord forgive me. But, you can't even take a photograph with someone. So now we're right-wingers that are condemning photographs of people attending a debate. So now you're not allowed to debate. You're not allowed to have a conversation. And trust me, folks, I'm not going to get into specifics, but behind closed doors, they want to blacklist people just like the left wing. They don't want you to talk to them. They don't want you to talk. And it's starting to get to association where it's like, well, Anomaly said that, so he's with him, so you can't talk to him. Earlier this year, and then we're going to get into legislation, Ben Garrison, who's a very famous Trump cartoonist, he does all sorts of cartoons against the deep state. He's a Trump supporter, really intelligent cartoonist. He was invited to the White House, which should have been, a prize moment of his life. Like, I got to go to the White House. It's amazing. And they disinvited him last second, Ben Garrison. Why did they disinvite Ben Garrison? Because he drew a cartoon of George Soros puppeting, or the Rothschilds puppeting George Soros, puppeting McMaster. That's what the cartoon was. Something along the lines of Rothschilds puppeting Soros, puppeting McMaster. The right wing stopped him from going because conservatism in the mainstream, unfortunately, as much as I've been supporting it and backing everyone up, it's just progressivism with the speed limit. The ADL says that's anti-Semitic because it involves Rothschilds and Soros, who happen to be two Jewish men, even though they're not representative of everyone. They say that, and then they say that, and then they say that, and the left-wing media says that, and then even the Trump White House or Charlie Kirk or whoever's involved, they bow down to it because they're so pro-Israel, almost more than they're pro-free speech. I don't knock people for being pro-Israel. I think the anti-Zionists are too mean and too angry. I'm like, you guys got to get out of the basement and go enjoy, meet some people you love. I don't support everything that they do. However, the right wing is selling out free speech, that you can't even critique George Soros anymore, or else they'll disinvite you to an event. You can't take a photograph with somebody who's too far right for you. I'm never going to apologize for taking a photograph. I'll take a photograph with the communists. I'll take a photograph with Obama. I'll take a photograph with Farrakhan. I'll take a photograph with an extreme Orthodox rabbi. I'll take a photograph with Pastor Anderson if I want to, a Baptist Christian preacher. I'll take a picture with whoever I want, and there's no such thing as not being able to talk to somebody. Someone said the right is not doing this. Debbie, you have to listen to what I'm saying, unless you want to just close your eyes and lie to yourself, Debbie. Sorry, Debbers, it's happening. The right wing is disinviting people for drawing cartoons, and then they'll get to the college campus and tell you Islam is trying to stop people from drawing cartoons. So is the right wing. Ben Garrison got disinvited from a Republican event because he drew a cartoon criticizing Soros and Rothschilds, and they happen to be Jewish, and the right wing is so far up Israel and Jewish, organizations' ass, they'll sell out free speech before they let you criticize Israel. I'm sorry, it's just true. You don't hear me criticize Israel very often because I have better things to do. I have 1,000 videos. I've maybe, questioned them in 10 of them. I've questioned Saudi Arabia in 30 of them. I've questioned our own country in 80 of them. So why in the world would I not be allowed to question them? That's what they do. It's even in legislation right now. If you go to Florida, they passed an anti-Semitism bill. Ron DeSantis did. And I'll give you a hint. Would you be a little weirded out if Chuck Schumer went to Iran and passed a bill for Islam? Would you? Just think about it. If Chuck Schumer flew to Iran or Saudi Arabia and passed legislation for Islam as the first bill from California, passed on a foreign soil, would that be okay to you? Of course not. Well, that's what Ron DeSantis did for Israel. He went to Israel, passed a Florida bill on foreign soil, the first bill ever in Florida's history passed on foreign soil for anti-Semitism. But if you read the bill, it's an anti-free speech, anti-First Amendment bill that says you're not allowed to be anti-Semitic in schools. The problem is not that I support anti-Semitism or hate against Jews. It's that, what does anti-Semitism mean? What does Islamophobia mean? What does hate speech mean? In the bill, it said that you're not allowed to criticize Israel as much as you criticize other countries. If you criticize Israel, you have to make sure you criticize other countries just as much, or you're not allowed to do that. You're not allowed to do this. Now a cartoon is anti-Semitic. Just why did Ben Garrison, a Republican cartoonist, get disinvited from a Republican event for criticizing George Soros and the Rothschilds? It's because the right wing cares about Jewish donors and Israel more than they care about free speech. They're even writing legislation that's a religious bill that only protects one religion. If there's a race bill and it protects only black, but it doesn't protect Hispanics, white, Asian, Christian, isn't that a little strange? A racial bill against racial hate, but it only protects one race? So there's a religious bill that's to stop religious hate, but it's only for one religion. And it spans into ethnic as well. So it's a bill that protects one group, and then everybody else doesn't have that same protection. It makes absolutely no sense, but unfortunately, this is the game that they play on the right wing. I'm pro-free speech. I don't agree with socialism and communism, but I'm going to talk to someone today who probably does have a soft spot for socialism and communism, and I don't care. I'm going to take a picture with them, I'm going to film with them, and I could care less who says what. I could take a picture with Nick Fuentes if I want. I could debate him. I could have a conversation with him. I could talk to Charlie Kirk. I could talk to Louis Farrakhan. I could talk to Roseanne Barr. I could talk to CNN. I could talk to Fox News. And I don't want a liberal or a conservative to smear me. We already know the ADL and the SPLC and the ACLU and every liberal organization, the Daily Beast, we already know they're going to smear us. We already know they're going to lie about us. We already know they're going to pressure us. We already know they're going to try to rig the algorithms. We already know they're trying to take the Second Amendment. But what a lot of people don't know is the right wing will blacklist you just as quickly as the left wing. They're just a little sneakier about it. If you draw a cartoon that offends their donors or their friends or their political agenda, they won't invite you to the event. They'll blacklist you. They'll tell people behind closed doors, don't talk to them. Don't have them on the podcast. Don't debate them. They've been firing their own employees, basically, or disavowing them, disassociating with them, because they don't want them even attending a debate. Talking is very important. And it's very, very bizarre. And I want to go even a step further. And I know this bothers so many people, but I just don't care. My love for free speech, I don't agree with death threats. I don't agree with, violence. But as far as free speech, the line is very strong. It's not like, well, that hurt my feelings, but I'm a Republican, so that's okay that it hurt my feelings. No, there's no line there. But another one, because I always bring up the Big Three, PragerU, who I really like, Ben Shapiro, who I don't really like, but the Daily Wire does good work, and Charlie Kirk and Turning Point. Those are like the three big underbelly of like new conservative movements, and they all care about Israel more than they care about free speech. You can love Israel, but maybe you shouldn't pass a bill in Florida that undermines the First Amendment. You can love Israel and want to do everything for them, but maybe you shouldn't disavow cartoons. Maybe you shouldn't disavow photographs. Maybe you shouldn't fire people for attending debates. Maybe you shouldn't try to pressure people and blacklist people from having conversations and talking to people and agreeing to disagree or agreeing and disagreeing. They don't do that, guys. And it goes even further. I mean, you could look it up online. I've posted it before. In the 2016 election, leading up to it, like a month or two before, Ben Shapiro posted a blacklist on his Twitter, basically. People were saying, Ben, who do you think's alt-right and far-right? And I'm going to give you guys a hint. If you're labeled alt-right or whatever that label is, they then try to ruin your life. They have justification to kick you off Google, Twitter, PayPal, Facebook. They've been doing it to hundreds of people. They banish you from the world. If they can stick that label to you and get people to actually believe it, whether it's true or not, They can take away your financial institution. They could take away your money. They could take away your job. They've already been doing it. So it's a very serious accusation. If you're going to stick alt-right onto somebody, you better believe you're not wrong about it. Richard Spencer is alt-right. How do I know that? He founded the organization and he proudly says it. Ben Shapiro, right-wing conservative, free speech, anti-political correctness guy, posted a list of who he thought was alt-right or alt-right friendly news organizations or people, and on that list was Donald Trump. That's correct. Ben Shapiro suggested, it's still on his Twitter, that Donald Trump is alt-right or alt-right friendly. So that's Ben Shapiro basically lobbing up to the ADL, the Anti-Defamation League, all these other organizations that look for this stuff to say, hey, this is who I think's alt-right and alt-right friendly. Take a look at them. Donald Trump, Ron Paul. First of all, Donald Trump is so not alt-right, it's not even funny. The dude loves Israel and Jewish people more than anyone I've ever seen. So to suggest that Donald Trump is alt-right, some sort of, Jewish-hating alt-right person, is absolutely bananas. He said Ron Paul. He said Donald Trump. He said Mike Cernovich, who's also extremely pro-Israel. He said Alex Jones, who's also extremely pro-Israel. He said Breitbart News, who has a Jewish CEO. I don't know very many Jewish people who are alt-right, because the alt-right really doesn't like Jewish people that much. So why is Ben Shapiro calling his ex-boss or his ex-company, Breitbart News, alt-right or alt-right friendly? It's because these Republicans are sneaky little snakes, and they want to disavow you. They want to blacklist you just as fast as the left wing does, while they go around college campuses telling you how much they're fighting against political correctness, while they won't even take a picture with somebody on the right that they disagree with. They're afraid of pictures. They're afraid of cartoons. The New York Times needs to take that cartoon down. Ben Garrison needs to stop with those cartoons. Why? In America, it's a cartoon. You don't have to agree with New York Times' cartoons. I can't stand the New York Times. They're awful. But I'm not going to condemn their cartoon. I could say I don't agree with it. But that's what the right wing does. Even Trump and all his people were like, we condemn that disgusting anti-Semitic cartoon. Okay, well then good luck when Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez calls you anti-Semitic. And you say, no, I'm not anti-Semitic. That's what they did to Donald Trump and all his people. Well, you made fun of Adam Schiff. Adam Schiff's a Jewish man, so now you're anti-Semitic. Come on, that's not anti-Semitism. Of course it's not. Of course making fun of Adam Schiff or talking about Adam Schiff is not anti-Semitism. Just because you don't like Adam Schiff doesn't mean you dislike every Jewish person on the planet. That's the craziest thing I've ever heard. But that's in a weird way karma for the right wing calling everyone else anti-Semitic all the time. You don't own Jewish people. You don't own, Semitism. So that's in a weird way karma. They're like, well, I'm not anti-Semitic for making fun of Adam Schiff. Of course you're not, but neither was Ben Garrison when you disinvited him from, your event. Neither is, all the people that you try to blacklist and censor and kick into the shadows, and then you wonder why the hate is growing. Why is anti-Semitism growing on the right and the left? Well, multiple reasons, but one that I could think of is when you just blacklist somebody, you don't change their opinion. Daryl Davis changes people's opinion. He went directly to the KKK, talked to them, had a conversation with them, and showed him with proof that he was of value, that he wasn't just a horrible person. That's how you stop anti-Semitism. Charlie Kirk, Ben Shapiro, Dennis Prager, and in many ways the Trump administration, they think they could get rid of anti-Semitism by passing anti-free speech legislation, by condemning cartoons, by disavowing photographs with people who they don't want to debate with. So it's growing because people look at that and then they get more mad. I talk to people on all sides. I've talked to people who are further on the right than me, and they're angry. I'm not as angry as them. I'm like, I understand where you're coming from, but in a weird way, they're like the kid in the corner where they're getting blacklisted from anything. They can't have a conversation. They're demonized for what, Black, Hispanic, or Jewish could do. If they were those ethnicities, they'd be allowed to do what they're doing now, but then they do it, and all of a sudden they're a racist, sexist, supremacist, and it's not making it any better. And I'm not justifying how people feel. I feel how I feel. What I'm saying is, I don't want to be guilty by association because I try to connect with somebody and make them feel better and make them feel differently and give them a perspective they've never heard in their echo chamber. I don't want to be blacklisted by Turning Point, Ben Shapiro, and PragerU because I'm actually effective. I want to lessen the hate. They're growing the hate. They say, Ben Shapiro has tweeted recently, he said, it's anti-Semitic to speculate that Jewish people in America are, dual loyal. If you say that, that's anti-Semitism. And the reason I say this, guys, is because they connect these certain things. You have to understand, when they call you racist or something, there's a connection. We can call him this. Once we label him this, we can justify doing this. And then we can do this. And then we can do this. So you got to stop it at the root. Conservatives are playing that too. If Ben Shapiro calls Donald Trump Ron Paul and Breitbart News and Alex Jones and Mike Cernovich alt-right, now that's a label. The ADL, the Anti-Defamation League, and others, if that can stick, which it does in many ways when it's not even true, Mike Cernovich, I follow him on Twitter, he's one of the least anti-Semitic people I've ever followed. He absolutely loves Israel and loves Jewish people. But still, they smear him on that website and try to say he's some sort of anti-Semitic Jew hater, when the dude is super pro-Israel and pro-Judaism. It makes absolutely no sense, but it doesn't have to make sense for them. So the point I'm trying to get to is you can't play these little games. You call them alt-right, now they have the justification to get censored. You blacklist or say something about somebody, and they're doing it within their own organizations. There's no critical discussion on the right. They basically say, if you don't disagree with my agenda and you're right wing, you're too far. We're going to label you something you're not. We're going to disinvite you. You can't do cartoons. We're going to pass legislation that stops you from doing that. And it's not okay, because they're going to come for me too. I'm telling you, I've already got word, and you guys know how nice I am. You guys know how respectful I am. You guys know how I'm like the least hateful person. The irony is, all these little minions that try to call me names, I'm so much nicer than them. I'm so much more kind and loving and fun, and they're like screaming at college campuses, and liberals are like, no one wants to listen to you. They're already labeling me alt-right. I'm not even remotely alt-right at all. I've never claimed that. I'm not even, I don't even call myself a conservative. I'm more libertarian, but the right wing is trying to label me that because people like me. I'm sorry that Nick Fuentes likes me. I'm sorry that I go to women's marches and communists like me. The Democratic Socialists, they want to beat the crap out of most conservatives. They see me, they say, Anomaly, I love your videos. That's awesome. I'm glad the far right and the far left likes me. They can hopefully come a little closer to center when they listen to me and get a perspective that actually makes them feel better about it. And someone said, thank you, Linda. But in a way, I'll give you an example. I was talking to somebody the other night who is further right than I am, much further right. And he's very critical of Israel. He hates Trump. He doesn't even like Donald Trump. And I started kind of saying things that he's never heard conservatives say. I mentioned that Donald Trump gets a lot of money from Sheldon Adelson. I said it because it's a fact. It's just true. And he respected that because no conservative will admit that. So now when I talk to him about why I like President Trump and why I actually think he's doing a good job, he's just finessing. He's not perfect, but I think he's doing an excellent job on all terms. He actually listens to what I say because I'm not just a shilly, phony conservative who says, we're fighting political correctness. And then it's like, hey, make sure they don't come to the event. I don't want to answer questions. I don't want him here. I don't want cartoons. They don't like that. That makes the far right justified. That makes them feel like they're fighting something that's real because in some ways it completely is real. A lot of stuff they're saying is valid because conservatives aren't letting them speak as well. So someone said that makes no sense. You're not listening or you don't want to listen. So a lot of these mainstream right-wing people, they're growing hate. They're growing anti-Semitism. They're growing the far right. They're growing censorship. They're growing political correctness. And they just pretend like they're fighting. You can't fight political correctness if you're going to ban people from events because they might ask you a question. That's the type of stuff they're doing now. They're saying, I know this stuff, guys. I don't want to gossip or drama. I'm not even going to say, but I know that there's conversations being had on the right wing saying, don't talk to him. Don't debate him. Fire them if they talk to him. Fire them if they take pictures with them. Why do you think Michael Knowles condemned a picture? Because he knows taking a picture with certain people will get him blacklisted on the right wing, so he has to say sorry. And then he went out and took a picture with Lady MAGA, some new transgender Trump supporter. Nothing wrong with that. Take a picture with whoever you want. God bless it all. But I'm just saying that's the new right wing now. Condemn a picture with Nick Fuentes and then celebrate a picture with a transgender Trump supporter that's like, cross-dressing or whatever they're doing. I have no problems with anyone, but that's growing you're making them look more, you're making them justified. They say you're like, I'm so sorry for taking a picture with Nick Fuentes, but here, I'm going to take a picture with a transgender because that's conservatism. They're like, we won't acknowledge that the United States has been funding Wahhabist ideology that, destroyed and murdered Christians in the Middle East, but we're going to go around college campuses and tell people we're standing up for the Christians. I'm sorry, but Dennis Prager, PragerU, Charlie Kirk, Turning Point, and Ben Shapiro never admit that the United States, directly or indirectly, most likely directly, for decades, has been funding radical Islamic terrorism. There's videos of Hillary Clinton admitting they've been doing it for a decade. Wahhabist ideology is the most extreme Islamic ideology, and the United States uses them as proxy wars against Russia, Syria, whoever they want to fight. They fund them. That's a fact. It's out. All the information's out there. You can find it in LA Times. You'll never hear them say that. So how are you fighting radical Islamic terrorism when you don't even admit who's funding them? And then you act like you want regime change war in Syria. Ben Shapiro's obsessed with Syria. There were 2.5 million Christians there. Now there's under 1 million. Christians are being genocided, slaughtered, and kicked out of the only country in the Middle East. There's more Christians in Syria than there are in Israel. There's more Christians in Syria than there is in Afghanistan or Iraq. It's a Christian stronghold. It's actually a place that people can openly celebrate Christianity in Syria. I'm not saying it's perfect, but there were more Christians there than ever. That's the part I'm trying to get to people. You can't stand up for Christians if your war agenda is getting Christians murdered. You can't stand up for political correctness if you're politically correct. You're only anti-political correctness if it goes along with your agenda. Then you're not really pro-free speech. The left wing is pro-free speech, guys, only if you agree with them. If you disagree with Kamala Harris, now she thinks you hate her because she's a woman or black. I've not heard one conservative even care that Kamala Harris is black or a woman. They just don't like her. That's never been one argument. Oh, I was going to vote for Kamala Harris, but she's a woman and black, so I decided to. No, people hate you because of who you are. Your ideology, your politics, everything. It has nothing to do with your race or your gender. So the left wing is only pro-free speech if you agree with them, which means they're not really pro-free speech. If you're only pro-free speech with people who agree with you, you're anti-free speech. Even Noam Chomsky used to know that. He used to be the big liberal communist guy, anarcho-communist, who said, you gotta let even the craziest people in America speak freely. That's what America's about. Even Noam freaking Chomsky knew that. Now you go to the right wing, Ben Shapiro's so against political correctness, and he's so pro-free speech. Unless you criticize a Jew, or unless you criticize Israel, or unless you disagree with him, then it's anti-Semitic, it's fringing on the lines of alt-right nationalism, it's really bad, he'll complain, he'll blacklist you. So you're not really pro-free speech. If you're pro-free speech, you don't have to disagree with somebody who's too negative towards Judaism or Israel. You don't have to think it's good, but you're not pro-free speech if you only agree with conservatives who agree with you. And that's kind of what they're doing at Turning Point, at Shapiro's little organization, and at Prager. They're the first ones to turn on you and falsely label you, whether you're left wing or right wing. I don't like Ilhan Omar, but I saw what they did to her, and I was like, and trust me, she's awful. There's not much I really like about her, but they started reaching and exaggerating and saying, she said this, so this is what she means. And I'm thinking to myself, and no one's listening to me, everyone's freaking out at me about my live stream. And I'm like, guys, if they can do that to her, they're going to do it to everyone. That's how things work. You give them an inch, they take a mile. So when it comes to Ilhan Omar, you have to pinpoint exactly what she's doing wrong. There's more than enough stuff that Ilhan Omar's doing wrong, so it shouldn't be very hard to just stick to what she's doing. It's like Donald Trump. If he's so bad, why do you got to make up all this fake crap all the time? Because he's not really that bad. But with Ilhan Omar, she is pretty awful. But conservatives started exaggerating. They started lying. They started suggesting that she said it's all about the Benjamins is anti-Semitic. They said that her talking about AIPAC is anti-Semitic when there's nothing anti-Semitic about it. AIPAC is a lobbying organization. It's so I saw them do all that, and I'm like, guys, this is going to backfire. And then Ben Garrison gets kicked out of a White House event by conservatives. I know why, because you already gave up free speech. If you give it up for Ilhan Omar, you give it up for yourself. And then in 5 years, when they're labeling, Ben Shapiro alt-right, which they already do, and they're blacklisting Ben Shapiro, he'll be like, I'm not anti-Semitic. I love Jews. I'm a Jewish guy. We know you're not anti-Semitic, Ben, but you already sold out your own people. You already sold out conservatives. So when it happens to you and no one's left around and Alex Jones isn't there and Mike Cernovich isn't there and Donald Trump isn't there and Ron Paul's not there and it's only you and you're targeted next, and when you get kicked out of events, it's kind of karma. You can't only agree with free speech for people who agree with you, guys. And when it comes to AIPAC, this is my thing. I'm not even remotely hateful about it, but I don't want to be not allowed to say it. I'll give you an example. Nancy Pelosi's at AIPAC, which stands for American Israeli Political Action Committee. It's literally in its Wikipedia. It's an American Israeli, lobbying kind of organization, political action committee, to basically unite America and Israel. I'm not even mad at that. Some people think I hate Israel or I hate, I don't care. I have many supporters in Israel. I have many Jewish friends, some that are liberal that don't give a crap about Israel, some that are conservative that absolutely love Israel, some that, like Ben Shapiro. I have a bunch of friends. Anyway, the point I'm getting to is I'm not even mad at AIPAC. I know, and now the anti-Zionists are going to get mad at me and the far right's going to get mad at me. Oh my God, Anomaly's not mad at AIPAC. He's sold out. He's Mossad. Can't please anybody. But anyway, the point I'm getting to is I don't care about AIPAC, but I want to be allowed to say what they're doing. But the right wing tells me it's anti-Semitic to say that. Nancy Pelosi, Chuck Schumer, Donald Trump, right wing, left wing, they all go to AIPAC. And they stand there, and there's a symbol in the back. It's actually hilarious. There's a symbol in the back, and it says Connected for Good. And it's got a Jewish star with an American logo. It says Connected for Good. So they're going up there openly bragging that they're connected. They're openly bragging that they have dual loyalty. They're basically trying to say that there's no difference between America and Israel, and we want to be connected forever. I'm not even upset. And I know people want me to be upset. I don't get it. The funniest part about it is then Nancy Pelosi, 30 seconds later, says, and if anybody suggests that, some people have dual loyalty, that's anti-Semitism, and we're going to fight it to the full extent. So under one breath, she says, I have dual loyalty. He has dual loyalty. We all have dual loyalty. And then in the next breath, she says, we're going to make it a law to make sure you can't suggest that we have dual loyalty, even though our logo literally says dual loyalty. That's the craziest part. Ben Shapiro and Charlie Kirk and Dennis Prager, they think it's hate speech to suggest that some Jewish people have dual loyalty. It's mind-blowing to me. It's not anti-Semitism. It's a fact. I don't know. Is that going to get me blacklisted from right-wing events? I'm not even mad at it. I have Jewish friends that don't like Christian Zionists, and they think that Charlie Kirk is kind of weird. I have Jewish friends that don't like Ben Shapiro. I have Jewish friends that don't care about Israel. I have Jewish friends who love Israel. I know the difference between them. But they want to suggest that it's illegal or it's hate speech in Florida now. It's a Republican passed that bill to suggest that some Jewish people have dual loyalty when of course they do. And it's not just Jewish people. It's Zionist Christians, it's Zionist Republicans, it's Zionist Democrats like Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer. What's the only thing that Chuck Schumer, Nancy Pelosi, Donald Trump, and Charlie Kirk agree on? It's Israel. It's giving aid to them. It's supporting them with and saying, if our capital crumbles, we will give you the money. Don't worry. I don't care. It doesn't bother me. It's not my country. I'm very the Israel-Palestine thing, it's not my conflict. I understand how big it is, but it's like, you guys can figure it out. It's a whole religious land thing. If somebody takes my land, I'll worry about it. I'm not trying to say I don't care about it, but it's one of those conflicts where, I'm not like, I don't weigh in on it that much. I don't know the hit. Some people, it was our land 3,000 years ago, and then it's theirs, it's ours. You guys figure it out. I don't know. It's not my thing. But it's like I can't even say what they say. I repeat what they say, and they try to say it's anti-Semitism. And it's just not just the left wing doing that. It's the right wing. And the reason that this is so important is because if you look at the narrative that the left, the liberal left, is pushing to censor and condemn conservatives, a lot of it is rooting from the ADL, which is a Jewish organization. And if you look at the things that they're targeting, they think that free speech is white supremacy. They think the Second Amendment is white supremacy. They think nationalism is white supremacy. They think conservatism is white supremacy. And in a weird way, the Ben Shapiro, Charlie Kirks, and Pragers kind of play into that a little bit, because they say, if you agree with me, you're not anti-Semitic, but if you disagree with me a little bit, you are anti-Semitic. Or if you talk to them, you're anti-Semitic. Or if you have a conversation with them, we're going to blacklist you like you completely agree with them. You can't do a cartoon. They're not really helping as much as they claim that they are. And if you're going to fight political correctness, if your whole life, if your entire brand is I'm fighting political correctness, that's their entire brand. Buy our mugs, drink leftist tears. You can't condemn a photograph. If you're going to condemn a photograph and then make, 6 figures a year touring college campuses yelling at liberals, I'm not saying you're controlled opposition, but you are the two-party trap. You vote for liberals, they'll steal your free speech quickly. You vote for Republicans, they'll steal your free speech slowly. It's like, we hate political correctness. Guys, I'm so sorry I took a photograph with someone at Politicon. You idiot. Donna Brazil's at Politicon. James Comey's at Politicon. Nick Fuentes is at Politicon. Jesse Lee Peterson's at Politicon. Charlie Kirk's at Politicon. Kyle Kalinski's at Politicon. There's Al Franken's at Politicon. That's the whole event. You go there, you take pictures with everybody, you take pictures of people, you take videos of people, you debate people, you ask them questions. You could take a joke selfie with Donna Brazil, like, haha, look, I'm with Donna Brazil. Haha, it's funny, I don't really like her, but it's a funny picture. You can't be right-wing conservative and condemn a photograph with somebody because you don't like their views. It's like they're so pussy. I'm sorry I said pussy. Someone's like, why did you say pussy? I just thought it was a good word for the time. Sorry. But this is the type of stuff that needs to be said, because the left wing will suck your free speech slowly. But if I'm conservative and I support Trump, but there's certain things I could say that are totally kind, totally compassionate, totally respectable, but if I take a picture of somebody, I'm banned. If I draw a cartoon that criticizes the wrong country or the wrong person, I'm blacklisted. I'm banned from a conservative event. Then what's the point? This is the only thing I'm trying to say. I don't mind that they do that, but then why are you going around college campuses acting like you're fighting political correctness? You know what I'm saying? And it's the same. That's the same ideology that I have with what they did in the Middle East. Ben Shapiro claims like he is some sort of Christian, savior, and he doesn't even like Jesus Christ. That's fine. I'm not saying you don't have to like him, but it's like he's the Christian whisperer. He's got Christians going to Ben Shapiro events more than they go to church. And then his strategy in the Middle East, he never explains to you who was funding radical Islamic terror that was overturning and hurting Christians. People don't even know this stuff. A lot of neocon Christian conservatives are like, yeah, we got to kill the leader of Syria because Ben Shapiro told us to kill the leader of Syria. The leader of Syria protects Christians more than any leader in the Middle East does. There's no other state or country in the Middle East that has more Christians and allows them to have churches and cross and Syria has one of the most decadent Christmas celebrations, even more than the Middle East. So he's like, I love Christians, and he brainwashes Christians into thinking that killing the leader of Syria is somehow going to help Christians. It doesn't help, and then he wants to make it illegal for you to say that he might have dual loyalty when he obviously does, which is fine. I get it. If I was Jewish in America, I'd probably love Israel as much as you do, but and some Christians love it even more than Jewish people do. It's fine. You can have your own perspective on different countries and nations, but this dude is such a snake. He gets Christians to want to kill Christians and think that it's somehow fighting radical Islamic terrorism when he never even explains who's funding them. He hates Donald Trump's foreign policy. It's a bad idea that Donald Trump did this in the Middle East. It's so bad. Why? Because he cut $2 billion worth of funding, Ben Shapiro, to radical Islamic terrorism? Does that bother you? That Ben Shapiro, that Trump cut a CIA program and now jihadists aren't being funded in Syria and the leader of Syria actually took his country back? That bothers you so much, doesn't it, Ben Shapiro? Now Christians have somewhere to go in the Middle East. What culture war is he fighting? What Christian agenda is he leading? How is he stopping political correctness? How is he fighting radical Islamic terror? He's not doing any of that crap. He's literally just yelling at liberals all the time and trying to convince you why, everything is Iran's fault. I don't know I don't get it. And my thing is, I'm not trying to stop him from talking, but he's going to try to stop me from talking eventually, or stop someone else from disagreeing with him and calling them alt-right and labeling them something that's going to get them targeted by these organizations, and then just be like, well, they were anti-Semites. That's all I'm saying. I'm not trying to be mean. I'm not trying to be hateful. Honestly, it's not career-wise, it's not the best idea to, question a lot of these organizations, but that's kind of what they've become. Agree with everything we think about the Middle East. Agree with everything that we say. Don't draw cartoons that offend, our people that we support so much. Don't question and answer us these questions about things we don't want to ask. Don't take pictures with people we don't like. And then if you do all that, then you could join us. But if not, then it's like, I don't want to join you then. Then I guess I'm never going to go, because I don't want to give up free speech just to join a conservative organization and be politically correct. I'm the gay black Republican who's against identity politics. I'm the transgender gay Latina Muslim who is against identity politics. I'll pass then. And I'm not knocking it, but it's just like, I actually care about free speech, so I can't lie just to be popular. I can't act like they're not selling out free speech. And if I, as an influencer or a conservative or a libertarian, if I don't stand up for free speech and I say, well, they could pass anti-free speech First Amendment laws in Florida, they can lie and pressure politicians with it, they can blacklist people, they can disinvite people from events, that's totally okay because they're conservative, they're just fighting the left with it, then what's the point of me even being here? I can't do that. So those are my thoughts. Let me know. I just want to get this narrative out there, because when they talk about this stuff, a lot of people tell me, I've never heard that, or like, the second they blacklist somebody from an event, they'll get on stage at the event and say, liberals are blacklisting people at universities and we need to stop. Of course they are. Liberals are doing terrible. Their free speech card is like a 5 out of 100. They're doing horrible. But it doesn't mean that you could do it too. You get what I'm saying, guys? Hopefully this resonated with some people. I'm not trying to be mean. I'm not trying to be hateful. Before I got to go, because I'm actually having a podcast. I want free speech to exist. I want the Second Amendment to exist. I want the wars to stop, or at least stop killing Christians so much in Syria. I want everybody to be able to practice their religion freely. I don't want extremism to grow on the left wing. I don't want extremism to grow on the right wing. That's not what I'm saying, but I think what a lot of these mainstream conservatives are missing, and then I really got to go, is that their brand of fighting anti-Semitism and fighting far-rightism is actually making it bigger and stronger and angrier and more justified. So if you really want to stop a lot of this stuff, you have to confront some of the problems and then argue and debate. You can't ignore all of the problems on your side and ignore all reality and just try to shut them up and think that they're going to go away. That's never historically worked ever. It has a 0% success rate. It's never worked. It's not going to work. You could hate me. You can label me far right or alt right when it's not even remotely true. You could label me liberal if you want to say, oh, no, I'm a fake conservative. You could fake label me and get me threatened, censored, silenced, demonetized, do whatever. But what you're doing is not going to work. It's not helping extremism. You can't censor it out. Now when they go to these culture war events, there's supporters of Nick Fuentes asking him questions about Israel every single debate, to the point where he's like debating about shutting down probably for, question and answers, because That's what happens. You try to shut it out. You try to censor. You try to blacklist people. You won't let them have a debate. You won't let them draw a cartoon. You won't let them have a conversation, even if you disagree with them. Then it grows and it grows and it grows, and they start following you. So that's the point I'm really trying to get to. I don't want this to be misconstrued and think I'm justifying extremism. I am one of the least extreme people out there. I try to get people to have a good mindset and ignore politics and not buy into all of this stuff. And look at people, yeah, you could have your group or something, but find, good individuals of every group and make that your group. But I'm not justifying it. I'm just saying what they're doing is not really going to work. And I can't just sit around and watch them continuously further undermine free speech and do exactly what they claim the left's doing, and then march around colleges acting like they're fighting what they're themselves doing. If I can't take a picture with somebody, whether it be left-wing or right-wing, then I don't want to be part of this movement. If you're going to condemn me and blacklist me from attending a debate, I don't want to be part of this movement. I'm taking a picture with whoever I want. I'm having a conversation with whoever I want. I'm going to a party with whoever I want. And I'm not going to be, blacklisted or threatened by any left or right-wing people. This stuff is ridiculous. And just because conservatives have their blinders on and want to act like it's not happening doesn't mean it's not happening. I know more than a lot of people know, and they're doing more than even that. They're passing not only legislation, but they don't want these people to even have the discussion. And it's not free speech, bros. All right, have a good one. God bless you guys, and hopefully this got through a little bit. Thank you.